A dock fire small enough to smother with a bucket of water ended 2 hours later as the deadliest industrial accident in American history. By 9 that morning, the fire would trigger one of the largest human-made explosions in history, and a second ship was still waiting. This is Texas City, 1947. 2 ships, 1 impossible mistake, and 15 hours no one saw coming. Texas City sat on Galveston Bay, a booming Gulf Coast port packed with oil refineries, chemical plants, and busy shipping docks. The port had grown fast since the war, its docks crowded with ships loading cargo for a world still rebuilding. Among them was the Grandcamp, a French-flagged cargo ship, one of hundreds of wartime vessels now hauling peacetime freight. Her captain, Charles de Gouillou-Beaune, had commanded ships for the French line since the 1920s, with nothing unusual to report. Below deck, dock workers packed her holds with 2,300 tons of ammonium nitrate fertilizer bound for France. The fertilizer had been made at converted wartime plants in Nebraska and Iowa, shipped south by rail to feed a starving post-war Europe. It was one of the least dangerous cargoes imaginable. Fertilizer, not weapons, not fuel, nothing anyone thought to fear. The only warning signs near the cargo were printed in French, invisible instructions to the American longshoremen loading the bags by hand. Months earlier, a local priest, Father William Roach, joked that he felt like he was sitting on a keg of dynamite. No one took the remark seriously. Texas City's prosperity depended on the docks, the refineries, and the chemical plants that ringed the town. On the morning of April 16, 1947, longshoremen returned to finish loading Grandcamp's last 600 tons of fertilizer. Nothing about the morning looked unusual. It was, by every account, an entirely ordinary day of work at an entirely ordinary port. At 8 o'clock that morning, smoke began curling out of Grandcamp's hold 4. Thin at first, easy to mistake for nothing at all. Longshoremen tried a jug of water and 2 fire extinguishers. Neither did anything. The hold kept filling with thicker, darker smoke. At 8:25, the fire alarm sounded across Texas City, calling every volunteer firefighter in town straight down to the docks. Fire Chief Henry Baumgartner led 27 of his 28 volunteers to the pier, answering what looked like a routine call. 4 fire trucks raced down toward Grandcamp, hoses ready, as a growing crowd of onlookers began gathering along the waterfront to watch. Aboard ship, Captain de Gouillou-Beaune made his decision. Rather than flood the hold, he ordered the hatches sealed and filled with steam. It was standard procedure for an ordinary fire, meant to starve the flames of air. Ammonium nitrate does not need air to burn. By 8:30, the heat inside the hold was climbing toward the exact point where the fertilizer itself would begin to explode. Captain de Gouillou-Beaune ordered his crew off the ship and walked out onto the pier himself to take a final head count. Drawn by the smoke, roughly 500 spectators gathered along the waterfront, certain they were watching from a perfectly safe distance. Firefighters worked the hoses along the dock, while steam and black smoke poured from the ship in thickening, rising columns. At 9:12 that morning, with no warning anyone could read in time, Grandcamp's cargo finally reached its breaking point. Grandcamp detonated. In an instant, 2,300 tons of fertilizer became one of history's largest non-nuclear explosions. The blast leveled nearly every building within 2,000 feet and sent a shockwave tearing through the rest of the town. The explosion threw a 15-foot wave across the harbor and hurled a 2-ton anchor over a mile into the ground. Two small sightseeing planes flying overhead that morning were reportedly knocked clean out of the sky by the shockwave alone. 8 miles away in Galveston, half the windows in the city shattered at once from the force of the blast. The 500 spectators who had gathered along the waterfront to watch had been standing well inside the blast's true kill radius. Father Roach had gone toward the smoke to help. He was killed doing exactly what his own warning should have stopped him from doing. Chief Baumgartner and 27 volunteer firefighters died instantly on the dock, trying to save the very ship that killed them. Only one firefighter survived, Fred Dowdy, the single member of the department who simply had not answered the morning's call. Captain de Guillubone survived the blast. His head count on the pier had placed him just outside his own ship's kill radius that morning. Next door, the Monsanto chemical plant lost 234 of its 574 workers in a single instant. Monsanto's own firefighting crew died on the dock across from Grandcamp, caught laying hose in the same instant it detonated. At least 581 people were confirmed dead, but transient dock workers were never fully counted, so the real toll may be higher. 600 feet away sat another ship, the High Flyer, carrying nearly 1,000 tons of ammonium nitrate of her own. She also carried 2,000 tons of sulfur packed in alongside the nitrate, a combination that made her cargo even less stable. The force of Grandcamp's explosion tore High Flyer from her moorings, sending her drifting into a third docked ship nearby. Her crew abandoned ship within the hour, driven off by choking smoke rising from the burning sulfur and nitrate below. That afternoon, 2 men climbed back aboard, looking for injured crewmen, and found the cargo already burning deep inside the hold. Their warning went unheeded for hours, even as everyone in Texas City had just watched one ammonium nitrate ship explode. At 11 that night, volunteer tugboat crews arrived from Galveston to try towing the burning High Flyer clear of the harbor. The tugs cut her anchor chain, but she would not move. Something had wedged the burning ship firmly in place. By 1 in the morning, the tugboats gave up and cleared the area, leaving High Flyer burning alone in the dark. At 1:10, nearly 16 hours after the first blast, High Flyer detonated. Witnesses called it the more powerful explosion. This time, the docks had already been cleared. The second blast killed 2 people, not hundreds. The town had learned fast. In the days after, Mayor Curtis Trahan organized a relief fund that raised more than $1 million for survivors. But the fertilizer hadn't simply been sold overseas. It had been manufactured under a United States government export program for Europe. 8,485 survivors and families did something no one had tried before. They sued the United States government. In 1950, a federal court agreed, ruling the government negligent for how the fertilizer had been made, packed, and shipped. The government appealed, and the case climbed all the way to the United States Supreme Court for a final decision. In 1953, the Supreme Court reversed it, 4 votes to 3, calling the government's choices legally untouchable. The families had lost in court. 2 years later, Congress quietly passed legislation and paid out nearly $17 million anyway. In 2020, a nearly identical stockpile of ammonium nitrate exploded in Beirut, and historians reached first for Texas City. Grandcamp's anchor and High Flyer's propeller still stand in a quiet Texas City park, a fire whose cause was never found.